right, let's look at number 6 here. It asks us to solve. Okay, this is going to require us to factor, so let's start with our factoring steps. Here we're going to find two numbers here that multiplies to make 22, and we want to, that's the middle number, so those two numbers have to add up to 13. Let's go in order. 1 and 22, no. 2 and 11, yes, 2 and 11 does work. Okay, then we want to divide by that 1 here, so it's 1x, 1x. Nothing happens to the factors. In factor form, it is just x plus 2 and x plus 11, and make sure it sets it equal to 0. Next, the fact that it's all in factored form, we can set each factor equals to 0 and solve. X plus 2 is equal to 0, x plus 11 is equal to 0. For the x plus 2 equal to 0, we minus 2 to both sides. This cancels, leaving you with x is equal to negative 2. For the x plus 11 equals to 0, we minus 11 to both sides. This cancels, leaving you with x is equal to negative 11. So your two solutions are x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to negative 11. For B, notice that it's equal to a number here, so we want to make it equal to 0. Right now, it's a negative 1, so to get rid of negative 1, we add 1 to both sides. The right-hand side does cancel. Negative 10 plus 1 is a negative 9. Bring everything else down. The right-hand side equals to 0. Bring down the x squared, bring down the 8x. Okay, now we set up our factors like normal. We want to find two numbers that multiply to make negative 9. Then we want to find two numbers that add up to negative 8. Here, let's try it. 1 and 9 looks 1 and 9. That's correct. And we want to make negative 8, so the 9 has to be negative. Okay, let's double check. 1 times negative 9 is negative 9. 1 plus negative 9 is negative 8. So that's correct. Then we divide by this 1x term. Nothing changes. So our factored form would be an x plus 1 equals to and x minus 9 equals to 0. That's what it is in factored form, equaling to 0. Next, we set each term equal to 0 and solve. We have x plus 1 equals to 0. X minus 9 is equal to 0. For x plus 1 equal to 0, we minus 1 on both sides. It cancels, leaving you with x is equal to negative 1. For x minus 9 equals to 0, we add 9 to both sides. This does cancel, leaving you with x is equal to 9. So your two solutions are x is equal to negative 1 and x is equal to 9. Let's look at question C here. It equals to 15x right now. So how do we get rid of that 15x to make it equal to 0? Well, we can subtract 15x to both sides. On the right hand side, it cancels, and we have a 10x and a minus 15x. That becomes a negative 5x. Bring everything else down. That did not combine. X squared comes down, negative 14 comes down, and it equals to 0 now. Here, now we can factor. We want to find two numbers that multiplies to make negative 14. That equals to negative 14, like we said. That adds up to this middle term of negative 5. Let's check those numbers. 1 and 14, no. 2 and 7, that does work. 2 and 7, 2 and 7. Because when we add them, it equals to a negative 5. The negative has to be on the larger number. Let's double check. 2 times negative 7, it is negative 14. And 2 plus negative 7 is negative 5. Then we want to divide by this 1x, because that is what it's in front. And it just becomes x plus 2 and x minus 7. Set that equal to 0 because that's what we did at the start. Now, set each term equal to 0. You have x plus 2 is equal to 0 and x minus 7 is equal to 0. For the x plus 2 equal to 0, we minus 2 to both sides. This cancels, leaving you with x is equal to negative 2. For the x minus 7 equals to 0, we add 7 to both sides. So the left side gets canceled, leaving you with x is equal to 7. Your two solutions here are x is equal to negative 2 and x is equal to negative 7. Let's do D. Right now, it currently equals to negative 3x. So how do we get rid of a negative 3x? Well, let's add 3x to both sides. On the left-hand side, we have to combine like terms. The negative 5x and the plus 3x becomes a negative 2x. Nothing else happens. Bring down the x squared, bring down the minus 3, bring down the equal sign. And the right-hand side does cancel, leaving you with just a 0. Now we factor. We want to find two numbers here that multiplies to make negative 3 And we want to find two numbers here that adds up to -2. And I believe that the number here are 1 and 3. 1 and 3, 1 and 3. The negatives on the 3. 1 times -3 is -3, and 1 plus -3 is -2. Here we want to divide by the first term, so it's 1x, 1x, right? The ax value. So in factor form, we have x plus 1 and x minus 3 equals to 0. Set each term equal to 0 and solve. We have x plus 1 equals to 0 and x minus 3 is equal to 0. For x plus 1 equal to 0, we minus 1 on both sides. It cancels, leaving you with x is equal to -1. For the x minus 3 equal to 0, we add 3 to both sides. The minus 3 and the plus 3 cancels, leaving you with x is equal to 3. So your two solutions are x is equal to -3 and x is equal to -1. So it's -1 and +3. Right, so there you go. Those are all the solutions. Make sure you factor first, set each term equal to 0, then solve.